Regular verbs. As in English, verbs have different forms. In English, we say I run, she runs, we run, etc. So why is run used with the subject I and runs with an S used with she? We just have different forms. On the next slide, you will find the Spanish subject pronouns I, you, he, she, we, they, and you guys, along with the different endings that verbs would receive depending on who the subject is. In Spanish, there are three possible kinds of verbs. There are verbs that end in AR, ER, and IR. These have similar but different endings. It is important to note that these are regular verbs. Later, we will see verbs that are irregular or that don't follow these rules. So the subject pronouns for Spanish are yo, I, tú, you, which is informal, so to say you, if you're talking to a friend or a family member, you would use tú. Él is he with an accent. Ella, she. Usted is you, formal, so somebody with whom you have a formal relationship, you would use usted. Nosotros, we. Ellos, they, which means they when you're referring to an all-male group or a mixed group of male and female. Ellas means they when all of the members of the group are female. Ustedes means you guys or you all. So these are the subject pronouns. Remember that verbs get different endings depending on who is what the subject pronoun is. Let's take a look. So if we have a regular AR verb or a verb that ends in AR, and if the subject is yo or I, then our verb will get an O ending. And what we do is we remove the AR from the end of the verb and replace the AR, in this case, with the O. And we'll see some examples in a second. Tú will get an AS ending, again removing the AR and replacing it with an AS. He, she, or the formal you, él, ella, and usted, they all get the same ending, the letter A. Nosotros gets amos. The ustedes, ellos, and ellas will get the AN ending. If it's an ER verb that we're working with, then the endings that those get are O, es, e, hemos, and en. Again, depending on which of those pronouns is the subject. IR verbs are almost the same as ER verbs. With IR verbs, we have o, es, e, imos, and en. So the only difference between the ERs and IRs is the nosotros forms. Okay? So again, these are the endings that verbs will get depending on what the subject pronoun is or who the subject is. So here's some examples. Here we have the verbs hablar, comer, and vivir, which mean to speak, to eat, and to live, respectively. So if I want to say I speak or I am speaking, I could say yo hablo. If I want to say you speak, using the informal, I'm talking to a friend, you speak or you are speaking, tú hablas. Okay? So you get the idea. Habla, hablamos, and hablan. Comer means to eat. Its forms are como, comes, come, comemos, and comen. Notice how we replaced the ER with the appropriate verb endings. Vivir, to live. Vivo, vives, vive. Vivimos, vivimos is we live or we are living. And viven, you guys or they live or are living. All right. So that is the secret behind regular verbs for AR, ER, and IR verbs. subject pronouns and the endings that they will get. Study those, practice them, and that's how it works.